Love. This is your girl Lee, and today my special guest is April. April, thank you for being here.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for, reaching out to me. I love to be able to share my story with anyone who's willing to listen.
Now, April, when I say the word love, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
God. God.
God is love.
Absolutely.
Your story is unique because you definitely have a story of survival that is like what most people can only imagine from a Lifetime movie. It's just amazing to hear what you have gone through and then how you have come out of it.
But I was raised by my mom. Growing up, my mom was labeled as a shelter, the face of domestic violence because she went through so much. We had been through different shelters, and it was like it was between her and my grandmother. My grandmother's an evangelist. I was a church girl. So my mom had three other children. She was about to have her, besides me, it was three others. And then she was pregnant with my younger brother. So my mom had five kids. And I was always back and forth with my grandmother. I was very sick as a child. They thought I had sickle cell anemia. I had very bad asthma. But what brought me to North Carolina is I had a brain aneurysm and I was having seizures. And at the time, DCYF, social services up there, they were telling my mom if I didn't have this experimental surgery, they were going to take me. So I ended up moving with my grandmother, who was already down here in North Carolina.
Okay. So you moved to North Carolina to live with your grandmother.
Yes, I did.
Did your mother move as well?
She did not move until 1993.
Okay. So when you moved with your grandmother, was it like a family member in North Carolina that molested you?
Oh, yeah, it was her husband, who was a bishop in the church.
Oh, okay. The lady that used to do my hair
Mm-hmm.
has a similar story because her father is a pastor
Mm-hmm.
and he used to molest her. He's still a pastor to this day.
Wow.
Molested at 9. Did you tell anyone?
Actually, I did. Um, I was a straight A student, super smart, and my grades began to drop, and that sent an alarm to my teacher. She's like, "Nah, something's not right with April. Her grades don't drop." And when my grandmother confronted me about it, I told her, I said, "Grandpa's molesting me. He's touching me." She asked and she said, "Bishop," because that was his nickname. She was like, "You do that?" He was like, "Yeah." She bouncing around in her underwear, And grandma said that time is a blur. And I actually talked to my grandmother about it. She told me I told him no, it didn't happen because I didn't want to break the family up.
Mm.
And then later on, my mom had walked in on it happening and told my grandmother. And then my grandmother lost it. She was evangelist, but her pastor was giving her a gun to kill him. Like
Wow.
she would, and she left and moved back to Rhode Island. And I felt like it was she was leaving me, but it was because she knew what she would do if she stayed.
Mhm.
Nothing happened, and it continued for a long time. It continued probably up until I was probably about, let's see, it happened when I was 10, probably until I was about 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that I know, times are different now. Uh, I would hope now that somebody would report it to Child Protective Services, and they would get involved.
Mhm.
But did any of that happen? Did
Oh no,
anyone?
no, and but that has a lot to do with where we are in the church because and in the black community, it's like things don't get addressed, things don't get called, and that time period, it was like I have memories of this and memories of that, and then I went to actually my aunt, my grandmother, because I'm like, there's some missing things. Like I don't understand this, and they kind of talked about the time frame, how things happen, and it was like I just felt like my family kind of threw me away. It was like it didn't matter, you know, and it just had me in a place of always wanting to feel wanted because I felt like nobody wanted me. They didn't care this man did this to me. So I grew up with that feeling of being wanted and having abandonment issues, and him molesting me was, well, at least I'm getting attention from somebody. So they don't care. So why should I, you
Mhm.
know?
What about your other siblings?
Mm-hmm.
Were they molested by him, or where were
Oh,
they at
no.
the time?
None of them were. None of them were. Now, my sister, I moved down in 91. My sister moved down in 92, but he never touched her. He never touched her. It was just me. And I feel like it was because I needed to tell that story. It might not have been something that my sister could handle mentally. Um, and granted, it shouldn't happen to nobody, but I feel like God picks certain people because they'll be able to live through it. They'll be able to give their story and tell their story and help to change other people's lives. And
At age 14, which is even more traumatic. How how did you um, get in that situation, or how were you kind of how did that person find you? Was it someone you knew?
by this time, I'm back with my mom. We were going to a charismatic church, and they had a private school, and I was good. They used to always watch me play basketball at the church, so they gave me an athletic scholarship, so to attend the school. And I was attending the school. I had gotten into some trouble earlier that day, and the principal was just she was hard on me, like hard on me, and I just got upset and I left the school that day. And as I was walking, I went to this grocery store, Food Lion, and I had a friend she was like my older sister. Uh, she was sick that day. And at the time, nobody really had cell phones. Her number was the only number I remember. I let her know what happened at school, and I had left. And once I got off the phone with her, he kind of grabbed me from behind. And what blew my mind is, this is a grocery store. You mean to tell me nobody's seen anything?
You were inside the grocery
I was
store?
outside. This is when the payphones used to be outside places.
Okay.
And yeah, first of all, for someone to grab me from behind and put me in the car, he was okay. Here's the payphone. The car was like right here. So it happened fast, but still, to me, it wasn't fast enough for someone not to see. This is a grocery store. So I kind of feel like some people seen it and didn't care. I mean, it's the rural South, so you know. Um, but I remember it such in detail because I remember us leaving. I live in Shelby, North Carolina. The Food Line is in Shelby, North Carolina. He puts me in the car. He's like, and I remember him saying to me, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be mine," and different things. And I am crying like, "What in the world?" I remember he had burgundy leather seats in the car because it was hot. It was May. This happened on May 10th, 1996, and he just looked weird. He had a scarf on. He just looked weird. He was an older man, older black man, and he had a hat on. He just looked weird. He had a polyester suit on, and in the car, he played BB and CC Winans' Christmas album. So I remember that music. Like I remember it in everything. I feel like God is in everything. So even in that car, I felt like God was saying, "I still got you. You're gonna be okay." We had stopped to a Hardee's in Cowpens, and he was like, "Don't get out the car." So I sat in the car while he went to go use the bathroom, but I seen a payphone, and immediately I got out, and instead of trying to run, which I probably could have, but I felt like he would have got me again, I called my friend Shelly. That was her name. I called her again. I said, "I've been taken. Can you get in touch with my mom or somebody at the church?" Because the school was the church as well. And before I could finish the call, I was like, "He's coming." And I jumped off the phone, and he was like, "Get back in the car." And he snapped me around a little bit. And then her mom worked for social services. So this is, I'm telling you, God is in everything. Her mom worked for social services. So he took me to his apartment. It was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And he took me to his apartment. He had me by the hand, brought me in, and threw me down, had his way with me. And it was just like I blanked out. I tried to think of memories and different things. I just blanked out. And when he was done, he freshened up, and he's like, "I need you to wash them socks." He had socks. Yeah, they was like this. He was crazy because they were like the nylon. They were like nylons like we wear. And he told me to wash them out. And mind you, I'm just like out of it. He tells me to wash them, and he goes out the door, and I'm not thinking. But the way the door was, he could lock it from the outside. So I couldn't even get out that door. So I went back to wash the socks, and then it clicked. Wait a minute, you're here by yourself. You can get out of here. So I went through the house, trying to get something to get the door open, and I was like, no, the back door. So I went out the back door. The back door was open, and I flew. I had watched the signs as I was going, and I knew I was in Spartanburg. And one thing about it, the pastor that me and my family was under at the time, they loved going to Spartanburg. And sometimes he would mention the Beacon restaurant in his sermons in Spartanburg. So I found the Beacon restaurant.
How did you find the restaurant?
I was walking, and I seen the sign. And I said, that's the restaurant. So I just followed the sign till I got close to the sign, and I ended up in the parking lot. There was a payphone in the parking lot. God was there too. The beacon means a light. It means a guiding light. So for it to be the Beacon restaurant, I got on the phone. I called my friend again and told her, I said, I got away, but coming through the parking lot with some patrolmen. And I told them. So they were able to get me to the hospital. They didn't believe me. They took me back to the apartment because they thought he might be there or something. They didn't believe me, but they took me to the hospital. And I remember them laughing outside the door. He's like, what you think? She telling the truth? He's like, nah, she ain't telling the truth. But at the time they was doing a rape kit test, and it proved it. So I can't remember who got in touch with my aunt. But she came, and then my friend Shelly's mom came, and things like that. And that was not but God, because she could have, because of the situation with her working for social services, I could have been gone, if my aunt hadn't come there. My mom at the time, she was working a mill job, and she had 4 other kids, and she was kind of upset with me. It was like she kind of blamed me. She was like, I got other kids to worry about. So she finally came to pick me up, but it wasn't no sympathy. Me and my mom, we've had a crazy relationship. To God be the glory. It's amazing now, but it took a long time to get there. I shouldn't be here. I should not be here. And writing this book is freeing me from a lot of things, but also it's just showing me how strong I am. Like, I should not be here. Like, this is not even the tip of the iceberg of things I've been through. And when I began to write the book, God began to reveal a lot of things to me. And this is why you made it, or this is why. And then I got into the school system with teaching, running after school programs with kids. And I understood why I had been through what I've been through. Because so many times when you go through stuff like that, you play the victim, and then you never can understand. But once you get out of that victim mentality and realize, I didn't go through this for myself, I'm not going to be selfish, this story is going to help somebody else.
Did they ever find the guy?
Yes, they did. They found him, and he come in the courtroom with a pocketbook on. I remember, it was crazy.
What?
Yeah, he had a poly with a pocketbook. It was just crazy. And they, I remember they were gonna find him in contempt because he wouldn't shut up, but he was just crazy. But it got too much for me, and I don't think my mom pursued it because she seen what it was doing to me. And it just kind of went, on the back burner. And it's crazy because I just writing my book, I began to look up his name, and they tried to redo the case back in 2002, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but they just dismissed it. But I remembered his name because he had a certificate in his room with his full name on it. So I was able to give that to the police and different things. Yeah, it was crazy.
So he didn't serve any time for your rape and assault?
No, and that has to do with me pretty much. I think it had to do with us not pursuing our end of it. But of course, I had to do whatever my mom did. I'm, a young girl. I don't know what the city of Spartanburg did. He does have a long rap sheet. He has done time, but I don't know particularly what it was for. He's got to be almost 80 years old now. What got me into going to therapy was I tried to take my own life in 2018, and it was some things that were said to me that were just the straw in the camel's back, and I tried to take my life, and I ended up going to the mental facility for a week. And as I'm in the police car and they're escorting me there, I hear Laura Daigle's song, You Say. And again, God's like, I'm not leaving you, I'm here. And that's when I really dove into getting this book done. And I found out that I suffer from bipolar depression. I was officially diagnosed, which explained a lot of the behavior that I had exhibited after all those traumatic experiences. So it helped me to kind of understand who I was, and it kind of gave me a jump start to change my life. Not only change my life, because by then I'm an ordained minister and things, but to just do life on my terms, not everybody else's. And I'm still going to therapy now, um, but I'm a lot better off than I was. A lot better off. You know, the fact that I went through therapy and I was able to look that man in the face and tell him I forgive him for everything he did. You know, and people can't even, they can't even look at that person anymore.
Yeah.
And my heart genuinely goes out to him now, because it's like, regardless of what you did to me, I forgive you, and I know the Lord forgives you, and I don't want him to suffer. You know, if God's gonna take him, let him just take him peacefully. I don't want him to have to suffer, because the thing about it is, you can get forgiveness, but there's still consequences for things you've done. And because the heart I have, I don't want anybody to suffer. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that level of forgiveness is next level. Most people, we might be able to say, I forgive you, but we want you to stay the hell away from us. We're not going to be able to accept a hug from you. We don't want to be in the same room as you. So for you to get to that point, I don't even think most people can relate to that level of forgiveness, especially after what happened. It just speaks volumes to your spirituality and your level of faith. Tell me about that. Like how have you still remained faithful to God and and still been able to believe in God despite everything that you've gone through, from the being homeless to being molested to being kidnapped? How have you still been able to maintain your faith and your belief in God?
One thing I know is that my ladder will be greater. I know it. I know it without a shadow of a doubt. I've seen it. Um, I I see things in the. I see things. I have dreams and everything, and I know that God has greater for me. But what has held my faith is that in my darkest moments, He was still there. It might not have been a quick fix, but God has always been there. He's always shown Himself to me. And to go back, when I was talking about when I was sick, when I had the brain aneurysm, I moved down here. My grandmother, she's an evangelist. God told her to pray for me for 7 days and anoint my body. Now, aneurysms period don't go away. You can't just remove them. You can have surgery to deflate them, but you can't remove them. My grandmother prayed for me for 7 days, anointed me. When I went back to the doctor, they did not understand because there was no aneurysm there.
Wow.
Now, I know for me, I'm going to continue to serve God. I'm going to continue to have that relationship, because it's that relationship that has gotten me through. It's that relationship. Throughout my book, you will see that God was always there, whether He was in my back pocket or close to my heart. He was always there. And there were different situations that April might have strayed away, but God never left. He was always there. He just was waiting on me to stop being hard headed, you know? But my faith, without my faith, I wouldn't be where I am today. There's no way.
Uh, I'm so glad you survived and have come out of it with such a testimony. There's one question that I have to ask you. I kind of like have to be a jerk and ask you this because I would imagine that a lot of people are thinking. When you have gone through molestation and rape,
Mhm.
a lot of people will say, well, that's the reason why you're gay. What do you have to say to that?
Absolutely not. A lot of times, especially masculine identified females, or just us in general, they're like, oh, a man hurt her. That's why she like that. No, because after that, I had no problem with men. Obviously, I loved them enough to get pregnant by, have two kids. I mean, it's just my preference is women. I love women. And I also, it was like, okay, if I'm going to be with women, I never want them to feel like I ever felt growing up. And I've been in love with men. I've been in love with women. My preference is women. That's all. It's nothing. I don't hate men. I'm not, in the man haters club or anything. No, I'm not like that. Me and my wife will be in public. We'll be like, oh, he's fine. Like, I mean that. No. Not at all. I still keep in touch with exes of mine. Like, I have nothing against men. I love everybody. It just happens I love women more. That's all.
Wow. Thank you for saying that. Because I always know people are gonna say, "Well, that's the reason." So y'all had that. April, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, for being so transparent. I know a lot of people would just hide the shame or what they interpret to be shame from what they've gone through as a child. And we need to speak out. There's power in our voices. So I thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm just excited for what God's doing and, who this is going to touch because you never know who's going to click on that link and see that video and be like, wow, that was me. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for the opportunity.
I'm excited for what's ahead.
Me too. Definitely.
Well, April, as I say to everyone on let's be the love that you want to see in this world. And you are doing exactly that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.